Hey, what you say, food family? Mike here, and welcome back to the channel for another great culinary adventure. After a long, hot summer, fall is finally upon us, and that means one thing, folks. It's chili season. Today I'm going to show you my version of the classic Gameday chili, and we'll pair that with some sweet jalapeno cornbread. So whether you're here for your next Gameday meal, or just like to curl up with a warm bowl of chili and some cornbread, stick around and I'll show you how it's done. Let's get cooking. Alright folks, to start off this Gameday chili, we're going to begin by sweating off our veggies. Today we're going to be working with some celery, some green bell pepper, and some onion. Now of course you can adjust the amounts of these ingredients to your personal taste. Otherwise, click the link in the description below. That'll take you to my website. That has a printable recipe card with the base amount of these ingredients you're going to want to use for this particular version of Gameday chili. Like I said, change it how you like it. Now in order to sweat these veggies, we need some sort of oil, right? Now you could use some regular cooking oil, but my personal favorite, and every good kitchen should have this, is to keep a jar of bacon fat in the fridge, because this adds a ton of extra umami flavor that you just don't get with that cooking oil. So that being said, I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of this bacon fat to our pot, get that heated up. We'll start off with our celery, saute that a few minutes, seasoning it with some salt and pepper, of course. We'll finish up with our bell pepper and then our onion, and then we'll come back and get to the next step. Alright folks, you saw in that previous clip, we sauteed and sweated those veggies a few minutes each, just to take that fresh crisp off of them and start to release those natural flavors we really love. Now we can set this aside and turn our attention to the meat. Now for today's Gameday chili, I'm using straight ground beef, hamburger only. If you want to fancify yours, by all means add some pork, lamb, whatever else you like. But for this Gameday chili, I like to keep things simple. And speaking of keeping it simple, we're going to keep using the same pot. This is a one-pot Gameday chili to make your life even easier. So I'm going to put my beef in here. We're going to start to brown it off. And in the beginning, I'm only going to season it with some Worcestershire sauce, salt, and pepper. We're going to cook it about halfway. And then I'm going to take half of my chili seasoning mix and season that meat as it cooks, just to really fortify those flavors in the meat itself before we add the rest of our ingredients. So let's switch back to the other view, and we'll start browning off this burger. Alright folks, welcome back. As you saw in that previous clip, we browned off our ground beef. Halfway through, I seasoned it with about half of my chili seasoning. I like to do about 2, almost 3 tablespoons per pound of meat. I know that's a little heavy, but I like a lot of flavor in my chili. So if you're not into that sort of heavy, delicious chili flavor, then by all means, don't add as much chili seasoning. So now that our beef has been browned, we can add our remaining ingredients back to the pot. Of course, we got our veggies we already sauteed. We got a couple cans of Rotel. I got a can of pureed tomato, a can of crushed tomato. We got the rest of my chili seasoning, of course. And as always, it's Gameday chili, so of course we're adding our beer. Now, I'm a PBR fan. You know how I roll. We don't put anything in our chili without tasting it, right? So cheers. Yeah, that's good, cold, and delicious. So it's going in. This one's for me, though. So let's add our ingredients back to the pot. Those sauteed veggies. Pureed tomato. crushed tomato. Rotel. Just so we have some tomato chunks in there, of course. And you can or cannot drain these, it's up to you. Just slightly mix this in with that beef. Now what you want to do with your beers, or beef stock or vegetable stock if you're not into drinking, it's totally, you can use whatever liquid you need. You can also just use water. I like to take my beer and rinse out my cans to get that extra little bit of tomato stuck in there. Leave no tomato behind. One down. Two. And of course the rest of our seasoning. Stir that all together. Alright, we're going to cook this over a low simmer for about 90 minutes. Now don't just totally leave it alone and get too drunk. Remember to come back and stir every 15 or 20 minutes or so to keep things from sticking. So I'm going to switch over to the other view. We'll let this simmer away. Get to cooking, let all those flavors fortify with one another. And we'll come back and move on to the next step. Alright folks, I moved our chili off to the side over here so we can continue cooking. In the meantime, we're going to get to making that sweet jalapeno cornbread. We're going to start out by mixing our dry ingredients. Today we're going to be working with some all-purpose flour, some cornmeal, some baking powder, and a touch of salt. Now, the one thing I hate about baking is you have to use precise measurements, so if yours doesn't turn out, don't blame me. Blame the altitude or the weather or whatever it is, because it's definitely not my fault. I'll link the recipe in the description below so you can make sure you get everything nailed on the spot so we can't mess it up. So that being said, let's get this stuff mixed up. We'll start out with our flour. All right, we've got the flour in there. We'll move on to our cornmeal. Now, obviously, it might be easier just to buy a pre-mix of this stuff, but you know what? I'm going all out for you guys today, so be sure to leave a comment below, like and subscribe, tell me how I'm doing, because I'm making cornbread from scratch for you guys. Come on now. A little more to grow on because, you know, baking, right? Alright, I've got our cup of cornmeal in there. Set this aside. Now we've got our baking powder. Hopefully that's going to work out. And then our salt. I'm going to eyeball this one because that's about a teaspoon in my mind. Now we're going to mix these together. Get enough for government work. Now I'm going to set this aside, move this stuff out of the way, and we'll mix our wet ingredients. Now, of course, before we move on, leave it up to me. I did forget one ingredient, the sugar. You can't have sweet cornmeal without sugar, right? So let's add the sugar. Now we'll get those wet ingredients out and get that mixed up. Alright, we finally got our dry ingredients set up, moved off to the side. Let's move on to the wet ingredients. We're going to start out with half a cup of melted non-salted butter, unsalted butter. We'll go in with a cup of buttermilk. Now, a lot of people don't have a lot of uses for buttermilk, but it's great for brining chicken if you're going to fry it. So it's nice to have some on hand once in a while. And our final wet ingredient is 2 room temperature eggs. Now, I have no idea why it has to be room temperature. Someone out there in the world that knows how to bake and knows a little bit more about the science behind it, tell us the difference between room temperature eggs and fresh out of the fridge cold eggs, because I sure as hell don't know. Let's clean this up, whisk these together. Alright, got some super buttery buttermilk here, obviously with a couple eggs. Now we're going to slowly fold in our dry ingredients we mixed earlier. Make a little bit of a mess while we're at it, because why not, right? And again, this is a good point. If you want to get your kids in the kitchen cooking, this is a great way for them to help out. They can stir while you slowly add in your dry ingredients, or vice versa. Just they have a little fun in the kitchen. And at the end of the day, when that cornbread comes out of the oven, it's warm and delicious. They're pretty satisfied that they helped make it, right? All right, starting to thicken up here. Add the rest in. All right, once again, good enough for government work. Now the next step, we're going to fold in our cheese and our jalapeno peppers. Now I'm being lazy today and just using a can of pre-diced peppers. By all means, use a fresh pepper if you want, dice 1 or 2 in there. But like I said, today I'm being lazy. I'm using pre-shredded cheese because that's how I roll. If you want to grate a whole block of cheese, by all means, be my guests. So we'll get this cheese in here. And we'll add those diced chilies. Now obviously you can change your cheese up, use whatever cheese you like. You don't have to have jalapenos in there, but we're making sweet jalapeno cornbread. It's not really that spicy to begin with. Between the cornmeal and a little bit of sugar in there we added, you're barely going to taste any heat off of this. Even kids can eat this. But I think it's a nice complement to that spicy chili we're making. And even that can be altered to your taste, so as always, cook to your own taste. Don't just because someone says make it spicy or make it mild doesn't mean you have to. Go off the rails, get wild. All right, we got our cornbread batter mixed up here. I'm gonna set this off the side. We're gonna let this sit for about 10 minutes just to hang out. In the meantime, we'll get a 9x9 pan and grease the hell out of it with a stick of butter. All right, as you can see, I got my 9x9 pan here, or at least I think it's close enough. And about a tablespoon of butter. All I'm gonna do is rub it all over. This is just going to help prevent things from sticking later on. Make sure you get up on the sides too. Now why we can't use cooking spray, I have no idea, but we'll rub the butter on there like it says. Super healthy cornbread here. Stick of butter, some more butter. Let's add some sugar. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Hey, it's game day chili and sweet jalapeno cornbread, am I right? No one's out there watching their waistline. It's fall. Hot girl summer's over. Everybody can let go for a little while. Wear them baggy clothes and enjoy life. Oh, and in the meantime, I have preheated my oven to 375. I figure mine takes about 10 minutes, so while that cornbread batter is resting for the 10 minutes, everything's coming together and that baking powder is doing its magic medicine, whatever it does. We'll finish greasing this up. We'll layer in here, and as soon as the oven's done preheating, we'll toss it in for about 33 to 38 minutes. We're going to be checking it about 30 minutes. If the top starts browning too soon, we'll need to cover it and slow things down. So, all right, folks, our oven is just about preheated. It's been 10 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and pour our sweet jalapeno cornbread batter into this greased pan. We'll throw it in the oven when it's ready. We're gonna bake it off, like I said, for 33 to 38 minutes. Start checking around 30 minutes. So if it's starting to brown too much on top, just loosely cover it with some aluminum foil to keep it from completely browning. When it's done, you'll be able to stick a toothpick in and it'll come out clean, just like baking a cake. Everybody knows that. So we'll get this poured in. And I'll throw this in the oven and we'll come back, we'll check on that chili. Alright folks, our sweet jalapeno cornbread is baking away in the oven. I did a little cleanup as you can see over here, clean as you go so you'll end up with a huge mess at the end. Our chili has been cooking for 75 minutes and I thought, you know what, it's time to raise a little hell and cause some controversy. Now if you're a Texas chili fan, you know we're not adding anything else to this, but for the rest of the states, everybody likes a few beans in their chili. Times are tough, meat's expensive, we want to expand this meal as much as possible. Get a little more protein in there, feed the family. So today I am going to be adding some beans, but we're keeping it light and only doing 2 cans. I'm going to do 1 can plain dark red kidney beans. Drained, of course. And then for my other can, it's called ranch style beans. Now these are actually pinto beans that have been cooked in a bunch of various salt seasonings. Great flavor to them. I don't know how to describe it, but I went ahead and drained off that excess sauce though because we don't want that in our batch of Gameday chili. I'm going to go ahead and add these beans in there as well. And we'll stir that in. And that's all I'm adding, folks. I'm not going crazy on the beans. I'm not a huge bean lover myself. But my wife will kill me if I don't add some. You know how it is. Happy wife, happy life. So we compromise 2 cans of beans to like 4 pounds of meat. My kind of ratio. Alright. Our chili's basically done at this point. It's been 75 minutes. I said we're going to cook it 90 minutes. That extra 15 minutes is just time for these beans to warm through. So I'm going to sit this spoon down, and while we're raising a little hell, why not have another beer? It is hot in this kitchen today, folks. I am cooking up a storm for you guys. This is just what I need to cool down. We'll let these beans continue warming up in this chili for the next 15 minutes or so to finish off at 90 minutes. If you didn't add them, that's fine. Just let it keep going to 90 minutes. Our sweet jalapeno cornbread should be finished up about the same time. We'll come back, plate everything up, and give it a taste test. Alright folks, the time has finally come. Our chili has cooled off a bit. That sweet jalapeno cornbread's out of the oven. I'd plate it up here all looking fancy for you. There's nothing left to do but to give it a taste test and see how we did. So let's dig in. Well folks, I don't know what else to say, but absolutely nailed it again. This Gameday chili is out of the park. I'm telling you what. It's just warm enough to remind you that you're still alive a little bit, a little tingle on your tongue. Now that being said, the chili seasoning I used in my chili today actually has quite a bit of hot peppers in it. Depending on what chili seasoning you use, you may want to add more fresh jalapenos or serrano peppers to your chili as it cooks. Go ahead and add them right before that 75-90 minute cook time. They'll cook in there. Or you can saute them up in the beginning with the celery and bell pepper and onion. It doesn't really matter when you put them in there. Get them in there if you like it super hot. I like to add them later. That way you can always feed the masses and then treat yourself to a little more spice if you like it hot. So we know the chili's delicious. Let's try that sweet jalapeno cornbread. This sweet jalapeno cornbread is absolutely amazing, folks. It pairs perfectly with this Gameday chili. It's a nice, light, sweet bite at the end. We can put those peppers in there, but they're not really hot. They're cooked into it. It's more of a sweet cornbread. If you want yours hotter, by all means, add a lot more peppers. I think it's perfect as it is. If you like what I made here today, be sure to like and subscribe. Drop a comment below. Tell me how I did. That also lets YouTube know by hitting that like button or the notification bell or even just subscribing. Watching all my videos. That tells YouTube that I'm out here putting out great videos for you guys, sweating my ass off in this hot kitchen today, making something delicious for you, and you guys enjoy it. If I can do it, you can do it. So that being said, Mike here signing off until next time, folks. Just keep cooking.